What's up, fam? It's your boy John again, aka Dark Wolf 92. What's cracking? I got another video I'm gonna react to with you tonight, and this is from our boy Mr. Nightmare. I haven't watched any of his videos in a good minute because when my mom moved to Texas, I introduced her to him, and we used to watch a lot of his videos together. And after her passing, I just kind of drifted away and just didn't. A lot of the shows that we watch together I don't watch anymore just because I enjoyed watching them with her, and looking at his videos was one of the things we enjoyed together. But I'm gonna go back and get back into watching his videos because I always loved Mr. Nightmare even beforehand. I've been following Mr. Nightmare for roughly about I'd say about 6 or 7 years. And he was the one who got me into creepy the creepy story genre here on YouTube. I used to listen to his videos all the time at work when I was in the office, and it helped get me through the day. It was entertaining. I got several friends into listening to him also at work. So he's he's been a big inspiration to help me get through some of these days that have passed. But it's time for me to start getting back into listening to his stories because I have missed him. And we're gonna start it out with 3 scary true train horror stories. And this, I man, I've been sitting here planning on, when I have the opportunity, maybe taking a train trip and just to get out, travel a bit, kind of get my life back in order after everything that's just happened recently, because this year has been rough. It has been so rough. And this is a heck of a thing to see just before doing that. So, but as always, guys, I hope you like my reaction to this video. Hit that like button. Please hit that like button. Help me get in this algorithm. And subscribe to the channel. Support your brother. Help him out. Share the video and hit that notification bell so you know when these videos go up. Also, as I mentioned in the previous video, please check to see if you're still subscribed, because the thing is that for some reason I keep losing subscribers. It's like it goes up and then it drops. So make sure you check that you're still subscribed to my channel. And once again, to all my subscribers, thank you all for all your support. Now let's go ahead and get into this video. Yeah, that's definitely a passenger train.
Hopefully I don't dox myself by writing this, but I'm a graffiti artist, or as some might see it, a delinquent. I'm fine with either title. Point is, I like to spray paint, and I'm decent with a can in my hand. The tagging community is atrocious. People aren't friendly, and there's no respect between artists. Because of this, I've adopted a much more inconspicuous routine. I like tagging up quieter spots, where my art likely won't be seen by other artists or the general public. Old train lines are usually a good bet, since the train cars are endless and new trains get decommissioned and left to rot on them all the time. My friend Lucas likes to come with me when I tag up, even though he's not big into the whole thing himself. I welcome the company. Some people don't understand the importance of a good friend, and I think that's sad. Most of my other friends don't seem to respect my time or interests as much as he seems to.
Well, people don't believe
Lucas
in
and I
being
found ourselves
vandalism
smoking
and
on some
vandalism.
nameless set of old tracks I found earlier that day on Google Maps. I'm not a big stoner myself, but he smokes a lot of weed, so I often indulge to match his vibe. It wasn't that late,
That is a good
maybe
friend.
a little past 10 p.m. We finished a J and talked as we walked alongside the old, rusty freight train. Oddly enough, there wasn't a single tag on the entire train. It must have been recently moved here, I thought, excited that I'd get first dibs on such a good surface. I tossed Lucas a can for him to mess around with, and I started doing my own thing. About 5 minutes later, I finished my first tag. I admired it for a bit before moving to the next car, then the next. About 15 minutes and 2 paint cans later, I had 3 decent tags up adjacent to one another, and I was pretty proud of myself for how they looked in combination with each other.
Are really good.
Sorry in advance if this offends anyone, but I tend to discard my empty cans wherever they go dry. So I flung them back the way we had come, enjoying the satisfying clattering sound a ball bearing makes when bouncing around the inside of an empty can. I then caught up with Lucas, who had seemingly rolled and lit another joint, neglecting the paint I had given him. For context, the reason I'm not a big stoner is because I started getting unbearable anxiety highs much more frequently, maybe 90% of the time.
Yeah, well.
In hindsight, smoking 2 J's with Lucas was a borderline detrimental decision. After all, we were doing something illegal, which was already pretty anxiety-inducing.
You like to paint.
I smoked the second joint anyway, confident that I'd be okay. As soon as the final sparks floated off the J, that's when we heard it. A muffled clang from somewhere behind us rang out into the night. The two of us froze and stared into the darkness. I could feel droplets of sweat forming around my neck as adrenaline began coursing through me. I couldn't tell if the sound had come from outside of the train or from inside one of the cars. It was hard to tell which option was worse. We waited for a full minute in silence, and nothing. That's when I whipped out my phone and recorded this video.
Oh, dang. Okay, we got live footage. Those must be his tags. That's creepy as hell.
Hey, bro. You fucking heard that? I heard that shit, bro.
What the fuck? Ah, fuck!
Oh, is that
As
somebody
the video
yelling?
shows, whoever made that noise picked up one of my empty paint cans and threw it at us, before chasing and shouting at us. You can't really see the paint can in the video, but I swear to you, that's what the first sound was. As we frantically made our escape, whoever was behind us yelled, "You better not trip, boy." A few seconds later, an actual gunshot sounded off behind us, almost causing Lucas to trip and fall. It startled me so much that my finger slipped off the record button on Snapchat and the video cut out. We bolted down the tracks until they intersected a main road and didn't stop running until we were a safe distance away. I don't think I've ever been more terrified in my entire life. It didn't help that I was stoned out of my mind. My hands were literally shaking. So were Lucas's.
I bet.
We found our way back to the car and drove home in silence. What was I supposed to do? Call the police? I was literally breaking the law. That wasn't an option. The story doesn't end there, though. I actually went back to those tracks a few weeks later, but this time during the day and equipped with my trusty Glock 17.
Oh!
To my surprise, the train was still there. Despite that, there was a pretty glaring difference this time around. In the 3 spots where my tags had previously been were now ugly blotches of red paint. Someone had deliberately covered my work. Quietly, I kept investigating and eventually came to a train car with its door wide open. I took a look inside, and it was bizarre. The train car was completely empty, except for a chair in the direct center and what looked like ropes and chains scattered about. Some of the ropes were wrapped around the legs of the chair, and others were just lying on the floor. The weirdest part was the smell, though. The whole car smelled like bleach. If you closed your eyes, you would have guessed you were in a cleaning supply closet. I can't overstate the smell, though. It literally smelled like the whole train car had been doused in bleach. I went to take a picture of the scene when I thought I heard a metal clang somewhere further down the train. I could have imagined it, but I wasn't taking any chances. That was enough for me. I was out of there as quickly as I had come. I've told so many people this story, and none of them could rationalize that psycho's actions in a way that makes sense.
I can
I
rationalize
doubt a
it.
homeless person would be able to get their hands on a gun, but I can't
Hey, you'd be
fathom why
surprised.
someone other than a homeless person would respond so aggressively, and why they
Nuh-uh,
decided
they
to cover
would.
up
Yes,
my
they
tags
would.
is another mystery. I think the most disturbing aspect of this whole thing was the chair in the middle of the train car. I really want to go back to those tracks just to take a picture of what I saw, but I haven't worked up the courage to. I have no idea if whoever was there that night was really shooting to kill us or just trying to scare us. But sometimes, late at night,
Nice drone
when it's just
footage.
me and my thoughts, I can still hear that shot ringing in my ears.
Dude, the thing is that it could have been a homeless person. You don't underestimate them. And the thing is, I've said it in another video, when a homeless people find a good place where they feel safe and comfortable, and they feel that no one can bother them, and you intrude in that space, they can become very territorial. Very territorial. So you need to watch your butt when you do crap like that. If it wasn't a homeless person, because like you said, you was like, I don't know how a homeless person got a gun. Will you be surprised? Okay, but he's saying that the car smelled like bleach. There was a chair there with ropes and chains. The thing is that, hey, maybe it could have been gang or mafia related. You don't know, and you don't want to stick around and find out. Okay? I mean, bring the epitome, the definition of F around and find out. Stick around there and keep playing with folks. Okay, he may have came strapped, but trust me, you never know what you're gonna run into. And I mean, man, back in the day when I was younger, I, especially when we lived in the country, my older brother would always be talking us into going and doing crap like that. Always, and then we'd wind up being chased or by dogs or by some guy because we were on their property. Or I mean, it was only the grace of God that kept us in one piece. Kevin.
As I'm writing this, it's early July. This story took place at the beginning of summer. I usually try to hang around my college town or travel to Europe in the summer as a way to avoid going home, but that wasn't a possibility this time around. I found myself reluctantly returning home at the beginning of the summer. I just had to make it through 1 week, and then I'd be on a plane to Germany. I didn't really feel like seeing any of my old friends, but I wasn't too keen on staying home either. So I found myself waking up early and spending my entire days hiking, watching movies, or even just driving around aimlessly.
Why didn't you want to be at home?
It was my last day home. I was getting bored of the stuff I had been doing and wanted to do something a little more exciting. My friends and I used to train hop, one of the many unruly activities that I had since cut out of my life. I decided what the hell and drove to a secluded set of tracks I knew about. Freight trains always passed through here, so I knew there would be many options. The tracks were surrounded by trees and various flora, part of the reason I had chosen them. The last thing I needed was to be caught for doing an illegal activity after having been clean for so many years. I parked my car and made my way over to the tracks. Let me describe the layout so it's easy to understand.
So you did it by yourself?
This specific set of tracks ran through the trees for a while before entering a tunnel. There was a very small clearing on the other side of the tunnel and then a massive bridge over the water. My friends and I used to ride the train all the way across the bridge, but since it was just me, I would have no way of getting back to my car unless I felt like walking 10 miles. So I decided that I'd hop on the train and take it through the tunnel, hop off, and get a peaceful walk back to my car. I walked along the tracks and waited for a train to pass. It was probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Finally, after about 10 minutes of walking, I started to feel the familiar vibration in the rails. I quickly ran to the side and tried my best to stay out of sight. Usually, as far as I know, freight train conductors didn't care enough to report people walking along the tracks, but I didn't want to take any chances.
They normally don't.
The train passed, and I waited for a good amount of cars to go by before emerging from my hiding spot. I picked a car that looked easily attainable and began jogging alongside the train like I had done 100 times before. Once I was confident enough, I grabbed hold of the ladder and swung myself up. It was pretty easy. The train wasn't traveling very quickly. As my part of the train was about to enter the tunnel, I saw a strange flash of light from up ahead. I assumed it was a spark from the train or something, but truth be told, I had never seen anything like it before. I hoped there wasn't an errant wire or something dangerous in the tunnel, but it was too late to hop off. The train started picking up speed since the tunnel was perfectly straight, and I closed my eyes as the adrenaline rush started coming on. Just then, I felt a hand reach out from the darkness and literally grab my leg. I lost my footing and nearly slipped, but my hands were firmly gripping the train. I screamed and kicked, but the train sped by before I could make contact with anything. Before I could even comprehend what just happened, I felt another hand slap against my leg. I screamed again before scrambling up the ladder, hopefully out of reach. My heart was racing. What the hell just happened? The train exited the tunnel, and I hopped off without thinking. I waited for the train to completely pass and watched it chug over the bridge. I remember pacing back and forth in the little clearing, thinking about what just happened. Like, were there really people in the tunnel, and what could they possibly be doing there? Why the hell would they try to drag me down? All of these thoughts and more were racing through my mind when a stark realization struck me in the face. The only way back to my car was through the tunnel. There was absolutely no chance in hell I was walking back through that tunnel with those people in there, especially since they'd be able to see my silhouette and I'd be walking through darkness. I sat on the ground for what felt like forever. There was no other option. I couldn't walk across the bridge without risking my life. A train could come along at any second and the bridge was too long. I considered calling someone to come rescue me, but I wasn't even sure if they'd be able to do anything. Police weren't an option. I was breaking the law just being here. I had no choice. I picked up a rock and started making my way through the tunnel. There were 2 people in there, which I knew for a fact, but there could have been more. I had no idea. I got about halfway to the point where I felt the second set of hands when I heard something. A faint clicking was coming from somewhere in the tunnel. It sounded like a human clicking their tongue, but it could have been made by a machine. It was honestly hard to tell. I froze and thought to myself, continuing to walk this tunnel was a death sentence.
I was like, why are you
I felt a
freezing?
rush of confidence and pulled out my phone. You better stay back or I'll shoot, I threatened, my words echoing off the tunnel walls. There was a moment of silence. The clicking stopped as quickly as it had begun. I was obviously bluffing about having a gun, but I figured it was better to bluff than just walk in silence. I then pulled up a video on YouTube of a gunshot sound effect, turned up my phone's volume, and played it. It was honestly louder than I was expecting, and with the echo of the tunnel,
worked?
I prayed to God that whoever was in there bought it. Without waiting another second, I sprinted full speed into the darkness, bracing myself for a fight. I didn't stop running until I had reached the other side. By some miracle, no one tried to grab me. After making it out of the tunnel, I looked back. There was another flash from deep in the tunnel. This time, though, it subsided long enough for me to clearly see 2 silhouettes standing on the tracks facing me. That was it for me. I turned to leave, but as I was jogging away, the nastiest screech I've ever heard emanated from the tunnel.
That's a messed up photo.
It sounded barbaric, definitely human, but far from normal. I don't plan on ever train hopping again.
I bet you won't. Shoot, shouldn't have done it to begin with and then go and come in. Man, I wouldn't go anywhere like that without my piece to begin with.
The New York City subway system is a scary place. I've been an MTA worker for 7 years, and nothing really surprises me anymore. When friends and family ask if I have any stories, though, there is one that stands out among the rest.
And
One
we
that
already
I
know what's
can't
going
explain.
on about
This
New
happened
York
to me
subway
about 2
system
years into the
now.
job, but I remember it like it was yesterday. I was pretty acclimated to everything at that point, and things had become routine. I was stationed in Brooklyn at the time, and I was doing some
need to put
routine
railing
maintenance in
up.
High Street Station. There
Protect
wasn't a
people.
soul on the platform.
Got too many
It was
crates
actually kind of
in New York.
eerie. You're used to these subway stations overflowing with people, so seeing them empty and almost deserted looking was a strange adjustment to make. I hadn't seen a person on the platform in hours, and it was dead silent except for the buzz of the lights and the occasional passing train. Out of nowhere, I heard a clang from somewhere down the track. It startled me so badly that I dropped my mop in shock. The sound wasn't something I was used to hearing. The best way I could describe it to you is that sound that a rock would make if it had been dropped on a metal rail. I stopped what I was doing and looked into the tunnel, listening for other noises.
Can't forget that.
After a while, I concluded that whatever I heard had either been caused by an animal or a falling piece of cement. After all, these stations were pretty old. I went back to work, not thinking too much about the sound. About 10 minutes later, the same sound shook me from my concentration, only this time it was probably about twice as loud. This time, I actually became a little concerned, dare I say scared. Was it really possible that 2 chunks of the ceiling had fallen in the span of 10 minutes? I put down my supplies and walked over to the tunnel entrance, trying to be quiet. I peered into the darkness and couldn't really see anything. I debated whether or not it was a good idea to call out into the tunnel, and ultimately decided against it. I still figured it was nothing, but after the initial fear had worn off, I was more confused than anything. I kept trying to think of things that could make a sound like that, not once, but twice. It was especially bizarre since the second sound was louder. I tried to keep my mind off the sounds and went back to work, finding a good rhythm again. I was almost done with my work on this platform and was pleased that I'd get to leave this weird station soon. As I was wrapping things up, I heard something that gave me the chills. A child's voice called out for help from inside the tunnel, and he sounded like he was in distress. I instantly stopped what I was doing and made my way over to the edge of the platform. I hesitated for a few seconds before deciding that a child in anguish wasn't something my moral conscience would allow me to ignore. I walked down the steps leading onto the tracks
Yeah, but
and
how you
waited
know
for
it's
my
not
eyes to
set
adjust
up?
to the darkness. I shouted into the tunnel, asking that kid if he was okay. No response. That's weird, I thought, starting to feel nervous about this encounter. Just then, the kid's voice rang out again, repeating his call for help. I yelled back, asking him if he could hear me. He responded yes, and I asked where specifically he was. There was a brief moment of silence before he just said, "In front of you. Just keep walking."
Nope.
I really didn't want to, but couldn't just leave some helpless kid all alone on those tracks. It was dangerous. I began walking forward when something dawned on me. I yelled into the darkness one more time, this time asking the kid what was wrong. An uncomfortable pause again before the kid responded, "Just keep walking."
Nope.
I didn't like that. This whole thing was off. My eyes finally adjusted to the darkness, and I was able to slightly make out what was in front of me. There actually was what looked like the shadow of a kid just up the tracks, but there was something else that almost made me scream in fear. Another shadow, this one much taller, obviously an adult. My blood ran cold, and I stopped in place. This wasn't happening to me. As slowly as I could,
Nope.
I turned around and made my way back to the platform. Luckily, I wasn't chased on the way back. The kid shouted, "Wait, where are you going?" once I reached the platform, but I wasn't sticking around another second. I made my way up the stairs and called the police as soon as I got cell service. I told them everything, and police were swarming the platform in a matter of minutes. I waited to see what they turned up. After about 20 minutes of searching, they did find something chilling. There was a single kid's shoe just lying in the tunnel, which the police hypothesized could have signified a struggle. After hours more of searching and scouring every available database for missing children, we were told we'd receive a call if anything ever came up. It was concluded that whoever had been down there, though, had hidden somewhere in the tunnels. I have no idea what to think of this experience. This is the best theory I can come up with. Some psycho kidnapped a child and forced him to yell for help in an attempt to lure some unsuspecting Good Samaritan into a trap. Or hell, maybe it's their own kid who they're raising to also be a psycho. I can't think of any other reasonable explanation besides this one, but if I'm right, I can only imagine what that kid must be going through.
Man, you can never fail Mr. Nightmare and his stories. Man, that's messed up if a parent would actually use their child like that. That is sick and disgusting. Yeah, but that's crazy. That's the one thing about these stories, man. They make you really think about, are people just that twisted in this day and age? Are they just do people have nothing else better to do with their time in their lives other than torment other people? Oh God. That was a good story though. Those stories were good. I mean, the guy riding on a train hopping, crazy as hell. I wouldn't even. I mean, boy had some balls going back through that tunnel. That's for sure. And I mean, like I said, my brother used to have us do crazy things back in the day, which I thank the Lord that we came through okay. But man, I see stuff like this nowadays. It could have been a lot worse for us when we were younger. Because nowadays people don't care. It's like they have just lost all manner of sanity and just do any and everything. All right, guys. Well, tell me what you thought of the video. I thought it was freaking awesome. Put your comments down below what you thought of these stories. And as always, if you like my reaction to these stories, hit me up with a like, hit that subscribe button, share the video, and give Mr. Nightmare a visit. Also, I'm gonna put the link to his channel and the original video in the description. Trust me, if you've never been to his channel, you will not be disappointed. You will have, I mean, his stories are really good, especially when you just want to kick back. Like if it's a rainy day and you're just sitting back chilling, these stories are great to listen to while drinking a cup of coffee or sipping a cup of tea or even drinking a glass of wine. But the fact of the matter is, go show Mr. Nightmare some love also, okay? And I will catch you guys in the next video. Until then, you all stay blessed, take care. I'll see you later.